And you are listening to the Old Tube Radio Network.
How do you do, ladies and gentlemen?
Greetings to you.
Wherever you are, for music and the latest news from home and from afar, the station for you is
OTR, Old Tube Radio.
the station for you is
OTR.
The station for you, OTR, the Old Tube Radio Network from home. If you're somewhere in the Central Valley, listening to 27085 Channel 11, and from afar, perhaps you are dialed in on the audio stream at oldtuberadio.net, or maybe watching the video side at Google YouTube. Nevertheless, this is the Old Tube Radio Network in our 34th year, hanging out on Saturday nights here, listening for, talking with our tube radio collectors and the vintage radio sets of 11 meters from 1958 to about 1977-78 when they stopped making them, but we're kind of reliving the time tonight, sort of what it might have sounded like back in 1968 or 1962. We'll find out as the radios check in here on the Old Tube Radio Network. We're listening.
45. 25.
All right, we've got 25. Jerry, step up into the green room. We will be right with you, but we're going to head up the hill for shortwave listener 45. And I'm looking, hi, Paul. I am looking at my SWL list here, and I see that I didn't get you checked in, so I don't know if I missed you. We'll get you on the big board. We'll go back to you. How are things up there in the foothills? Over.
Got good old snow, but it's melting, so hopefully it'll be gone tomorrow. That thing's going to freeze up, though. It'll probably hold it for a while, doggone it. Anyway, I want to check in my T-Craft Falcon.
All right. I always like checking in a Falcon. You know, I've got my old Falcon station wagon, not made by T-Craft. I think the Ford Motor Company had something to do with that. I will check our photos here, and I think we might have a shot of your T-Craft Falcon, a very interesting radio, and from the collection of 45. So we'll get that up on the video. We'll go back to you for a transmission and maybe a bird's eye view of the T-Craft. Over.
Yeah, that's the radio. That's when we had some trees up here, too. A lot of those trees have died because of that stupid bug. Anyway, well, we can see better a long ways off. This thing has 11 tubes in the thing on the T-Craft. Crystal control, 23 channel. It came with a Turner Best ceramic microphone, and I'm still using it. I don't know how it's sounding, but I hope it's sounding all right. It's got a little compartment in the side where this microphone and cable, everything will fit right in there, and you can't even see it. It's kind of neat. It takes a little while to get it out, so you don't want to get in a big hurry about it, but and the same way putting it back in, but it's neat when it's in there. Anyway, I got some more, but back to you.
Sounds good. Got a nice signal coming down the hill. Paul is certainly not that close to me, maybe 40 miles away, I guess, but sounding good tonight. What kind of I'm curious about the trees. One of the nurseries up there said they were distributing like 10,000 sugar pine saplings for everyone up in the area that wanted to come down and start replanting, trying to get some of these trees back. Wonder if those are the sugar pine. Same way up at the transmitter sites. It's just totally devastated from the last couple of years. So that's too bad. You obviously busy getting stuff cut down. T-Craft Falcon. Interesting, they would give you a place, like a portable radio. My little Hallicrafters radio has a little panel on the back, and you can stuff the AC cord in there, but it's the same way. You really have to fold the thing up nice, and just that last part of getting that plug part in there and get the panel back on is kind of a pain. The T-Craft Falcon, as Paul said, is 11 tubes, 5-channel, crystal-controlled, and a 23-channel receive. So I guess I would ask you, do you have a spotter on that, a spot switch, or do you just have to be really good at making sure everything's connected up between transmit and receive?
I know you're kidding when you said that. There's no meter on here or anything. All you can do is wait for the VFO to settle down, which still haven't settled in this one, and maybe an hour or so it might. And they just keep on listening. That's all you can do and tune to that. So, but my ears are pretty loud anyway, so sometimes I miss it. So if I don't hear what you're saying, that'll be the reason. It's drifty. So anyway, it's a neat radio, though. I love the thing. It had to be the first one, I think, that they built in the 1259 manufactured year on the thing. There's no information anywhere on the thing as far as in shams for... We have no diagrams or anything. Everybody's just guessing at things in it. But it's a big radio, a lot of room to walk in there, so I'm real pleased with it. I'm glad you're having it on here, Dennis.
Sounding good. Nice audio. I even see some forward movement on the meter, so looks like you're modulating gain. Gain on the modulation is set up good. And like a lot of the early radios, 1960s, 59, it wasn't supposed to be super technical. You were, base 1 to base 2. You didn't need S meters to give reports, and 1 or 2 channels was all you need. Although it is deluxe having the 23-channel tunable received as well. The front speaker is a nice touch. And like you said, I don't know of too many radios that allowed you to have a little compartment to put the microphone away. Keep things handy. Radio number 1, getting us started off at 8:40, the T-Craft Falcon. You don't see or hear many of those, but our tube radio operators and collectors do a great job here at OTR to make sure that the rare ones get some time on the air. Back to you, Paul, for transmission. Thanks for bringing it by.
Okay, well, I think I've told you about everything I know about it. It's a pretty good-sized radio, actually. I don't see any mounts for it being on the car on the thing. Usually they put the mounts on the radio itself. I know this has never been on the car before. No holes, extra holes in it. So I guess there's a way to do it, but I don't have the mount for it. Be a big radio to put in your car, but all these old ones were. Thanks, Dennis, for checking it in.
All right, sounding good. The Old Tube Radio Network, Real Radio's Glowing in the Dark. We are in Central California, 27085, and everywhere else at oldtuberadio.net, and the YouTube video. If you're watching the video, I'm wearing my St. Patty's Day knitted sweater. I have had this for a long time. Trying to think how old this sweater is. Probably 40 years, 35 years. It was knitted by my ex-mother-in-law. But I still have it. I don't have the mother-in-law, but I still got the sweater. I don't know if that was a good trade or not, but anyway, I do appreciate all the effort went into make this. And it's nice and warm too. It's great for St. Patty's Day. That's sort of what it was, kind of an Irish-looking deal here. All right, enough about me. Hello, 25, are you still there? Over.
Oh, yeah. And by the way, I forgot to say happy St. Patty's Day, and my hat's off to you, Dennis, for keeping a relic, I think you said given to you from your ex-mother-in-law. That takes a lot of courage. Anyway, very quickly, 25, checking in on the Sonar Model G, mobile radio, what else can I say about it? 8-channel transmit, VFO receive, and it's got the needles working. Oh, by the way, it does have the spot button. I kind of was flipping back and forth between the crystal and the tune, and it actually tuned everything in where it was about the same signal strength. So. But anyway, this one, one of the things that I figured out that was an option for these Sonar Model Gs was an internal speaker. You actually had to order it, and because I have another one that does not have one, you have to actually plug it in, the quarter-inch jack in the back to hear anything, have any kind of receive. So, but this one does. This one came with all the bells and whistles, I guess. So. Anyway, Dennis, thanks for checking it in. The Sonar Model G. Over.
That is one loud radio. Got some nice audio beaconing through my headphoniums here tonight, and I guess all across the universe at oldtuberadio.net. We've got a great picture courtesy of our photo guy, SWL 135, Mr. Green Arrow, showing what, even though it's not 23 channels, now there is more, compared to the T-Craft Falcon, a little more deluxe radio with the S meter, and it looks like it has some type of lighting under cabinet lighting there on the top, so you can read your channel selector. And I want to say it looks like it has a 23-channel receive as well. You can let me know, but it's mentioning that it's got the 23-channel tunable receiver. You said it had a spot switch, so obviously that would be the case. And the microphone, is it plug-in? Yeah, it plugs right in the front. Give us another transmission. I like the sound of that sonar.
Thanks, Dennis. Actually, this is only an 8-channel radio. Maybe the VFO maybe goes 23 channels, but it's only 8-channel transmit. And by the way, I'm talking on the old stock, big old handheld sonar microphone, so it's just talking right across the top of it. So anyway, but yeah, 8-channel transmit. As far as the DFO, I guess maybe you can go anywhere. I have no idea. I haven't messed with it. Then maybe somebody else out there knows. But yeah, no, it's only 8-channel transmit, and this one has 1, 9, 6, 11, 13, 14, 16, and looks like 18. So there you go. They must have been popular channels back in the day. Anyway, thanks for checking it in, Dennis. Back to you.
Unbelievably loud. Excellent.
Yeah, I agree. Get some comments. Unbelievably loud, and it is. It's a sonar. All the sonars can hold their own against the trams and the buddies and the Brownings. Yeah, that would be a good thing to take a survey on for everyone that has, not tonight, but we'll have to do it sometime. Anybody who has a multi-channel radio and what crystals are in it and see what's the most popular channel. Obviously, 11 is one of the reasons we picked channel 11 here, because a lot of the older radios that were crystal controlled and not 23 channels had 11 in them, because it was sort of a call channel. A lot of them had channel 9 for REACT, but then the other channels like 3, 1, 5, 16, 18, 17 would be interesting to see who would come in second or third or fourth in the what crystal do you have. Sonar Model G sounds great. We'll let you take another transmission. Radio number 2 at 8:48. Thanks for bringing it by. The sonar fans are applauding you tonight.
Oh yeah, we got at least have one sonar checked in tonight, maybe two. We'll see how long we can last. And by the way, this according to my frequently counter, it's pretty much right on frequency. So I have another G that's a little off, but anyway, Dennis, thanks for checking it in, and thanks for doing 35 years of OTR, and I have another G that's appreciated. Anyway, back to you. And good to hear Paul up there on the hill and everybody else. Back to you, Dennis.
All right, I agree. And as you know, I am one of the many net controllers that have been doing this for over 34 years. So I remember there's times when I was working the big shifts at the TV station, and man, I'd be away for weeks and weeks. And I would run out to the parking lot during a break with a walkie-talkie. I would go on the roof. I would even be on the roof at Channel 30 listening to Jim or Rob or Ed or Fred or one of the many controllers as they were checking things in and trying to get checked in SWL-wise. So it's been a fun 34 years between all the check-ins and radios. There was a breaking station. OTR is listening for you.
Yeah, sorry to interrupt. 5064 wanted to check in.
Okay, not a problem. No interruption. We'll put you out on the SWL list and get you officially checked in. 64, thanks for stopping by the Old Tube Radio Network tonight.
Thank you.
And let's see, on the video tonight, Butterbean, of course, checking in from Northeast Georgia with his 1969 tube computer. They glow in the dark. They work a little bit slow, but just like the radios, they're pretty cool. And the tubes last a long time. And you take them in for repair, and the techno geeks don't know what to do. Also, John, The mighty Juliet Whiskey, otherwise known as a KJG. You've got a 3 and 4. I had a 3 and 4. KJG 4755. Checking in and looking good doing it. OTR, we are looking for Radio 3. Let's go. The Jingle Singers are here. So let's see what they have to say before we get in Radio 3 here tonight.
How do you do? Ladies and gentlemen, greetings to you. Wherever you are, your favorite spot on the dial by far is known to you as
OTR, the Old Tube Radio Network.
the station for you is
OTR.
OTR listening?
Number 7. 45.
We've got 7. We've got 45. Paul, step up into the green room. Grab yourself a chocolate chip cookie. We'll be right with you. Radio number 3 at, the clock has fallen back again behind the other audio board there. It looks like it's 8:56 here Pacific Daylight Time. And we're going to Mr. Ed. Hello, radio.
And hello, OTR and all the SWLs. For this one, figured, hey, it's St. Patty's Day, so try the big green radio of Tram, TR27 Echo, with the Electro Voice 638 microphone.
All right, I'll get a shot of that. And Cliff, if you're listening, Cliff was always really good, SW135 in the past, when he could get into the radio room in the month of March, checking in his, and I think he had enough green radios that he could check in the entire month with something green. So, in the spirit of St. Patty's Day and my knitted sweater, we will check in radio number 3, the Tram TR27E. Not only is it green, it's big. Over.
That it is. That nice little speaker there that you're showing is a 5x7, so that gives you a little bit of an idea. The S meter is 3.5 by 3, and as you can see on the picture also, it swings into the green, also in for good old St. Patty's Day.
It's got a lot of real estate in that meter to swing and give you. I can't see if that's a 40 over or a 60 over signal. Doing a good job. Radio number 3. Where is my Tram info? I should probably know this one already. 1963, about the best I can do. We've also got an ad, oldtuberadio.com, from the 1963 CB Horizons magazine, where they actually give you a tech tip on how to tune one of the oscillators. It's right in the ad. So they weren't worried that anybody would get in there and mess up the radio or injure themselves. It's like, get in there and tweak that thing.
There you go. In fact, on the very top of the cabinet, right hand in the front, there's a nice little 2-screw panel right there. You take that off, and you have instant access to all of your crystals. So they were definitely making them so that they could be worked on fairly easy. Of course, the models before this one were not 23-channel transmit, just receive. This one had the full 23 complement.
Yeah, there was a couple of the 27 series. I know Harvey has a few of them. If anybody's the video or at oldtuberadio.net, I swapped over because you have that classic sound, and not only is it being produced by the classic radio, but Ed is also using one of the favorite microphones of the high impedance tube guys, especially Collins radios, the Electro Voice microphone, which I've just moved a picture, kind of alien looking, but sounds good.
There you go. Actually, on OTR, I tried a whole batch of different microphones on this thing. Turner, Static, multiple Electro Voices. This one, for some reason, seemed to give the nice, cleanest, clearest sound, so it stays on the radio.
And it sounds good. How heavy is that thing? It looks like it could do some damage if you conk somebody on the head with it.
Most definitely. The stand itself is made out of aluminum, but the top little head section there is definitely some good solid metal. So, yeah, if you dropped it on a foot, it'd probably take a nail or something. Yeah, it would do some damage.
Yeah, it might not be the best microphone for a Browning as you were swinging that thing around trying to get the ping, in case you swapped somebody with it. Radio number 3 is the Tram TR2070. It's sounding good. Give us another transmission, and thanks for bringing it by.
Oh, and thank you, sir. And I'm kind of wondering, looks like you're kind of in the turtle mode with the sweater.
Yeah, it's that. If you go online and look at the chieftains of the Irish Rovers, or even go back to the classic, one of the classic Irish Spring commercials where the guys, carving up the soap and they're taking showers in some type of a bush. This is what they're wearing. So, and this was, like I said, this was knitted for me by my mother-in-law about, I want to say 35 or 40 years ago. So it was, to get that nice little St. Paddy's Day look. And it still fits, and it's still great. It's a nice warm sweater.
Oh, there you go. My mom does a lot of knitting, and yes, it is very warm stuff. All right, thanks. I think there's someone else out there waiting, so I'll get the heck off here and get some more tubes ready.
Yes, there is. Thank you. At the top of the hour here, showing 9:01 Pacific Daylight Time, Central California time. SWL 45, Paul, stepping up to the microphone. Hope your radio is still working. Mine is. Hello, 45.
Yeah, I hope so. Anyway, I want to check in my Falcon Mark 5.
All right, another Falcon. I'm going to have to get a shot of my station wagon in here. The Falcon, give me the model number again.
5.
Falcon 5?
Like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
All right. Is that another T-Craft issue? Over?
By the way, that's Roman numeral on that thing. You were probably right at the beginning, but it's definitely a 5.
Okay, let me write it. I wrote it incorrectly in case we review these things. And that is another item from T-Craft, over?
Yeah, that's correct. That picture is not mine, but it's close to it. That picture is a Model A. Mine's a Model D. I'm going to have to talk to Rob sometime, see if we put mine up there. Trouble is, they look so much alike. It's just the insides are different on the thing. What I have, it has real good noise suppressor on the thing. It's it's called TNS, Twin Noise Squelch. So I don't know how they operate it, but it's interesting. I've never seen anything else with this type of a suppressor on the thing, but it really does work. Anyway, back to you.
Really loud audio. I will take a look at the S-meter. Might even do a frequency check on this. The audio we were hearing, the nice punchy, loud audio that we were hearing from the Sonar Model G from Jerry is very similar to what's coming out of the Falcon. It's just really loud. And I was looking at the VU meters going into the audio stream, and I normally have it set so that really close guys like Jerry and Ed peak the thing right at 0, and you are peaking it at 0. I saw some +1 peaks coming up, so that really tells me that you've got some good audio, and it's not distorted or flat topping at all on the Mark 5 radio phone. Back to you.
Okay, well, I'm going to go over Turner 350. Back when these guys were just starting out the Turners on this particular radio. But they did a good job of matching them, I'll tell you. That the other one that I checked in, the older one, it's got a Turner on it too, ceramic. So I didn't go into the other crystals or carbons or anything. They just went with the ceramic. And I think it tells by the tone on the radios. I really do. I like ceramic sound. Not amplified at all. Anyway, this thing was made and manufactured in 1962 by T-Craft and New Jersey. That's where it came out of. Interesting. But it's a real nice radio. A little fancier than the one before. This thing's got a lot of tubes in it. It's got 12 tubes in it. So it's definitely it's a solid little radio. Anyway, thanks for checking it in, Des.
Sure has some great loud audio, and if you get a chance to listen to the replay in the archives, let me mention for those checking in that would like to hear, maybe give themselves their own radio check, we do archive the audio at oldtuberadio.net. There's an archive button at the top of the page. You click on that. The OTR magnetophone will load all those little 3-inch reel-to-reel tapes that we make every week, and you look for the date, like 3/17/18, and whether it's an SWL or a Tube Radio check-in, load it into the media player of your choice, and then scroll through and find your check-in. And we do the audio directly out of the receiver into, let's see, what do we do? We go into an audio board and a little processor for some peak limiting and some noise reduction, but we don't really tailor the audio that much. What comes out is what we put into the sound card, and that goes directly in. So you will hear a very accurate playback of the way your radio sounds to most stations listening in on the archives. Doing a good job. You are Radio 4 with the Falcon 5. Oh, and by the way, your frequency check, you're right on frequency, maybe 60 cycles high, right there. So if you'd like to take another transmission one more time on the Falcon, we don't hear it that much.
Okay, well, there's other things interesting. The 5 crystal control channels on which you can transmit and receive on the same thing. I mean, you can turn one to receive, the other to transmit. So that's kind of a neat function on the thing. Anyway, that's about it. Thanks a million.
Okay, one more thing. I see there is on the very left-hand side, and it looks like it says RF gain, because I see another knob that says volume, which in theory is an AF gain. So does that actually have an RF gain?
Yeah, that's unbelievable. They had a RF gain in this thing. And it does help. Well, that noise suppressor is so good, I hardly ever try to tune everything, but you can kind of tune it with RF. And it's interesting. It's got a spot switch above that, too. We didn't get into that, but that's kind of nice to have a meter with a spot switch after the other one. Anyway, thanks for that.
All right. Again, I reiterate, this is a very loud, good-sounding radio. This could be a daily driver for sure. Maybe when the skip starts rolling in a couple years, this will be the one you want to use. Since I guess it is legal now. They took away the 155.5-mile rule for contacts. So when we start getting some conditions, it will be perfectly FCC legal for stations to call the old Tube Radio network as long as you are running 5 watts. But the distance limitation is now out. And yeah, an RF gain control on an early radio like that, very unusual, kind of rare, but a nice thing for receiving, as you mentioned. The old Tube Radio network, real radios glowing in the dark. We are looking, thanks, Paul, we are looking for Radio 5.
25.
Hello, 25, over.
Hello, Dennis, and Paul, I hope you didn't go away. Anyway, 25 checking in on the General Radio Telephone MC5, manufactured from General Radio Telephone out of Burbank, California. And anyway, this has been kind of a project in under construction. So hopefully we've got this thing all ironed out, and it's working, as my ex-German boss would say.
It is working quite well. And what we'll do, Paul was gracious enough to give us 2 radios so far, so we're going to go into his photo collection. And as you know, Paul has a very extensive collection of General Radio Telephone everything. And so we'll use a photo showing some more of those trees that may or may not be around in the background of his MC5 from General Radio Telephone. Beautiful downtown Burbank. Looking pretty good. This was their top of the line for General Radio Telephone in 1962, 1963. If you've got any type of a CB magazine from those years, late 62, 63, you will probably find an ad for this radio. Your project is working well. It is sounding good tonight. We'll go back to you for transmission. Over.
It's just kind of fun to know that when maybe guys are running around with mobile General Radio telephones in their mobile units. Johnny Carson was doing the Johnny Carson show. So, but anyway, I don't know where that came from. Anyway, yeah, and I'm doing a no-no. You're not supposed to run any kind of an amplified microphone on an MC5, but I am. I'm breaking the rules. The microphone I'm using is a Turner Plus 3B,
but I've got it toned down quite a bit, and the radio seems like it, and I think it was Ed said earlier that you got to find the microphone that the radio likes, and this one, this particular radio apparently likes this Turner Plus 3-beat. So, and that's about it, Dennis. I know you know the radio, 8-channel transmit and 23 receive, I think, on the VFO, if I'm not mistaken. Back to you.
I believe that is correct. These sold for just around $200. The price point on the Generals was always $199, $169. In fact, I think they actually lowered their price on similar radios after that. There is a schematic available at oldtuberadio.com showing only 7 tubes. And it, like you said, and we have experienced here, the stock audio on the Generals is always very good. So typically it doesn't need the amplified microphonium, especially on the later models like the Super, is it MC9, the ones that have the ECLL 800. You almost don't want to amplify the microphone. That one, as you said, good choice. It's early enough to have power inputs, cables for 6-volt DC, 12-volt DC, and 115-volt AC if you're going to do it that way. And and of note, this was the last radio that General Radio Telephone made that had the tone, what did they call it, tone signal. And that was thanks to the FCC that told them, no, we don't want you to do that anymore. I think it's causing interference, or there's some reason we don't like that. And so the MC6s had a bullhorn switch where the tone signal was. So we'll take it back to you, see what's happening with that tone signal, and thanking you for radio number 5. Over.
Okay, Dennis, thank you. And one of the reasons that I'm running the Turner Plus 3B is because I didn't have any other microphones to wire up, so I just thought I'd try it, and it seems to work. Anyway, here is the Martian Alert, and hope you enjoy, and happy St. Paddy's Day, everyone.
Yeah, that gets your attention. And unfortunately, I think it was misused just enough that the FCC told General Radio Telephone, we don't want to hear that noise anymore, at least on your newer radios. But I think you have to don't go. I've got one question for you. Maybe it'll solve a mystery. Do you just have to flip the switch to get the tone alert to go, or do you have to flip the switch and key the microphone? And what I'm getting at here is, can you start the tone and then walk away from the radio unattended and leave the tone going? And I think that could be one of the reasons the FCC didn't like this.
That's a good question, Dennis, because I'm not a jammer, but I can certainly try it. I'm going to leave the mic keyed and press the switch. No, you can't do it. It's impossible to do it because the tone alert is spring loaded. So you would have to have someone here holding that tone alert down, or figure out a way to get a toothpick or something if the spigot stay going all day long. But I don't know why anybody would want to do that. Anyway, thank you. That's
all right. Well, you've just proved that you're not a jammer, because otherwise you would already have it set up to be automatic. But so I'm at a loss. What's wrong with the FCC? The General Radio Telephone made it so that you had to physically key the microphone up. They put it on a spring switch so that you couldn't jam intentionally. That's intentional interference. So making it very hard to do intentional interference, but maybe somebody was doing that. So doing good, sounding good. I want to wave a hand to Timtron up in the Pacific Northwest, who's tuning in and watching the video out of the Evergreen State, and Eddie, who is also watching and saying hello to our Tube Radio operators tonight. Thanks, Jerry. The old Tube Radio Network is listening for radio number 6.
How about number 7?
7 could be 6.
Oh, there we go. We'll see if we can't do some more of the strange stuff. Anyway, more green radio. The Robin T123, no B, with the winking and blinking eye, which is also green.
Yeah, I knew it was the Robin when you keyed up there, because it did that Robin thing. I will post haste get the picture dialed up, because yes, indeed, we have another St. Paddy's Day special radio with the Robin T123 Bravo, and it's green. Well, it's got the green stripe along the bottom, and like the 120, like the 240D that had the yellow, this has the green knob inserts as well. It's Radio 6. Give us a transmission.
Actually, this one is the 123 without the B. There is no B on this one. I have a winking and blinking eye, which tell me right now that it is slamming together and working. Also, the D104 is a powered type.
All right, I'm blowing your chronology here, so let me back up and get the right radio dialed in on the video, and Ed is correctly keeping in our theme with the green. I guess I'm just a little excited to get everything checked in here. Here we go. So we've got it looks like a green dial, a channel selector, and the ever popular Magic Eye over.
Oop, copy that. And yes, it most definitely is green. The cabinet is green. The section where where 11 is green, but there's also different colors on there. Some are red. There's a white area. So I'm not sure exactly what that was supposed to be for. And of course, the winking and blinking eye, which is also green.
Yeah, the Magic Eye. If you're looking at the picture, we're actually looking in the side. On the side of that tube where the two lighted areas come together as the modulation increases towards 100%. Some of the tubes, you'll look through the top and you get the wedge moving about. So doing a good job. 11 tubes, 2 transistors, AM mode, of course, and you can find information in Sam's CB35, book 35, page 95. But maybe the only information that we need on a Saturday night is the fact that it sounds good, it keys up, and it does its thing. Back to you.
Thank you much. Hopefully it's not blowing up or doing anything weird, as sometimes it does definitely have some weird artifacts in the audio. With that, we'll go ahead and get some more tubes going.
Tubes glowing is a good thing on the old Tube Radio Network. You know what it does? It makes the jingle singers happy, and when they're happy, they end up doing this.
How do you do? Ladies and gentlemen, greetings to you. Wherever you are, the friendliest station for you by far is known to all as
OTR, the Old Tube Radio Network.
The station for you is
OTR.
The Old Tube Radio Network, looking for Radio 7.
Oh, what the heck. See if we can go ahead and take 7 also.
It's looking kind of lonely, so let's put SWL 7 in 7 as we have a double play here at 9:19 Pacific Daylight Time, and I am ready to copy. Over.
Well, this one has absolutely no green whatsoever, but it's from E.F. Johnson, and it's a Messenger 223.
Very popular radio for them. Maybe their most popular. I don't have sales figures. Obviously, they did quite a few radios, a couple of radios before that, and a lot of radios after that, mobile-style versions. But the 223, which was also distributed under the Sears logo, but made by E.F. Johnson, so if we can include those in there as well, might do pretty good. Let's see. I should be showing. Should I be showing the one with or without the modulation light?
This one would be the one without the modulation light. I have seen the ones with. I don't know exactly when or why that transpired, but this one does not.
All right, and I think I saw someone mention, I'm not sure if this is correct, but someone mentioned on one of the Facebook sites that the modulation light was on the earlier models, which I thought was strange. I would think, well, that would be something they'd put in as a later item, but maybe they didn't think it was necessary. If indeed, well, here's a question. In addition to your winking, blinking modulation light, do you also get some RF indication when you go to transmit mode? So you see a little bit of wiggle meter as well.
Yes, this one definitely does show when you key up, shows the forward modulation. So maybe that's the reason why they stopped putting the light in, because you can already see it on your S-meter.
Could be. Well, you know it's working. It's sounding good. 23 channels on one dial. No tunable receive. All crystal controlled, I believe. Not sure if it was synthesized or if they had full separate 23 channels in there. I remember Larry, Radio Ham Guy, who actually worked at the E.F. Johnson factory in the 1980s, mentioned that those radios, he said if you had one fault with the radio, he said they were very good. It might be that they would drift frequency because of the crystals they used, but you're sounding pretty good. I don't think you're off frequency.
Actually, this one's like at 825, so yeah, it's the way that they tie the crystals in together in little banks. I'm not sure exactly why they did it that way either, but yeah, they're not exactly dead on.
Okay, well, that's a Johnson thing, perhaps. I'm running as wide filtering as I can on my receiver just to get full fidelity. So at 27085, I'm not noticing any of the sounding like sideband, which it might if it gets totally off. So doing a good job. E.F. Johnson is the company. Do I have anything about E.F. Johnson? Two-way radio manufacturer, founded by its namesake, Edgar F. There it is. That's coming up on a test, so take notes. E.F. is Edgar F. Now, they don't say what the F is, so maybe if you just know it's Edgar F. Johnson, Waseca, Minnesota. That's what I was trying to remember. And that started back in 1923. This is the early days. And, Marconi and Fessenden were still running around, and Edgar F. starting his manufacturing company back in the day. Also, some of you ham guys out there listening might have some of the big iron Johnsons, like the Viking or the Ranger. So you know they can do the transmitters well. All right, thank you, Ed. We will go back to you for a transmission on the Messenger 223, and thanks for bringing by Radio 7.
Thank you much, yes. It would be nice to have one of those big boat anchor types to play around on some of the other bands. But you'd also have to have a very large table that's suited to take a lot of weight. With that, we'll see if I can get at least one more in.
And when the skip starts rolling in again heavy during the day, no doubt you'll hear some of those classic 11-meter, not Class D Johnsons keying up in skipland, probably running 45 to 60 watts out of the 6146 finals into some very heavy-duty amplifiers. They are notorious for skipland sounding good. The old Tube Radio Network, real radios glowing in the dark. We are looking for radio number 8.
25.
45.
And it's almost like an auction. Do I hear 65? We've got 25, 45. Paul, step up into the green room. You will be radio number 9. Heading over to Radio 8. Jerry at the microphonium of a classic-sounding radio. Hello, Jerry.
Yeah, I'll make this really quick, and hello, Paul, up there on the hill. 25 checking in on the Browning Golden Eagle Mark III. We can't go a night without at least having one Browning checked in. And this is two-piece radio. You got to spot it in, kind of coordinate transmit to the receive. Beautiful radio. Golden Eagle on the face. The red on the air light is on, and needle. Well, actually, the needle is not bouncing around because I have it set in a different position. And this is the banana mic, non-powered banana mic, and well, that's about it, Dennis. Back to you. Over.
Sounds good. Sounds real loud. The banana-style microphone, we're showing a D104 here, which was a very popular microphone for that set. It sounded good. But the advantage, I'll say the advantage to the, is that a Shure Electro Voice style microphone that had the little bass, when you could pull it out and the bass would stay on the table, and you could hold the microphone almost like a baton and wave that thing around to orchestrate your key-up sound, or the ping as they call it. So that was handy. And unlike the what was it, the EV638 that we saw earlier, if you dropped it, it probably wouldn't injure you, but it might break apart. I've seen so many of those in pieces, and I'm thinking maybe they got dropped. Sounding really loud. I'll let you. I'm going to make you take another transmission before you go, because you've got to at least key down a couple of times, and you bring in the big stuff.
All right, Dennis. So anyway, one of the drawbacks of the banana mic is it has this bass, and if you pick that up, I am not moving the mic whatsoever. It's just one of the characteristics of the Mark III. A lot of the Brownings, where I think they start transmitting before the receive goes away, and that causes the ping. But I could be corrected. But one of the drawbacks of the banana mic is you pick it up. Sometimes the bass comes with the mic, and sometimes it doesn't. And I've seen other operators actually break the bass because it falls on the ground, breaks. But I just keep this one on the desk. But it does have the bass, and the black kind of, I don't know what that is. Looks like electrical tape halfway down, but I'm sure that's the way it was made. And anyway, yeah, it is bass. I just leave it on the bass because, not that, so the break is, this so it doesn't drop and break. Anyway, I'm rambling here. Sideband, actually, years ago, we used to have a Friday night sideband, old tube radio sideband net that I think Kevin used to do. And I used to check this one in there. So, but it all works. And thanks for letting me check it in, Dennis. Back to you.
And I will say thanks for checking it in. Yeah, I remember the Friday night sideband net, Kevin and Jim and a few others running that to allow, and it wasn't just set for tube radios. Anybody that wanted to get in, we used to call it the decompression net, kind of Friday nights, but got a lot of good tube sideband radios on that. The Browning was popular. The other real popular one that we haven't heard a lot of in the past months or so are the Celtronics 1011 series. Sound really excellent on sideband once they get warmed up. I think Kevin used to say he would leave his radio on for 2 months and it could be on frequency. Thanks for bringing by the Browning Golden Eagle Mark III SSB, and you are right. As the receiver fades away, there's some capacitors in there that make it kind of slow on the off cycle. It transmits instant on the on cycle, and you hear yourself. You basically hear yourself. You hear your transmitter telling you that it's, or you hear your receiver telling you that it's going into standby mode. Speaking of standing by, we will say stand by no longer to Paul, who will have radio number 9 here at around 9:30. Hello, 45, over.
Hey, could I comment, Jerry, on one of his radios?
Yeah, go ahead, over.
Jerry, that MC5 sounds like an MC5. It sounds real good. You're clear. You're 100%. I wouldn't do any more modulation to it. It sounds just super. Anyway, that's all I got to say. Thanks, Chris. Yeah, I'd like to get back. I got this Realistic TRC X23A here.
All right, TRC X23A. From, and you said it was from Realistic?
Realistic, yes.
Yeah, my first big radio, my first 23-channel radio was a Realistic TRC, but it wasn't the X. I want to say it was a 23, but it was solid state. It was their first, it was the early 70s, or 1970, 71, and they had just kind of gone into solid state. So let's go back a year or two probably for this Realistic version that I'm thinking is obviously glowing in the darks. Nice audio, sounds good. Give us a key up, and I'll see if I can find a photo for that.
Okay, well, the audio, I hope, is better than the receive. It's not the best receive in the world. Probably don't have it tuned right either. But anyway, it's a clean radio, real pretty radio. And that's a picture of it. Yeah, you can see the front of it. Yeah, that's all aluminum, the whole thing. The rest of the radio is polished aluminum. And it's well vented back there with the polished aluminum cover on the thing. Yeah, it has as you can see, it has a PA and 23-channel crystal control radio and modulation light. That's that little light right beside the speaker there. I don't know why they need that. The other meter's swinging real good too, but they're doing. This thing shows real good on the meter. I don't know whether it sounded good or not, but it looks good on the meter. Hope it is. Back to you.
Looks real good on my S meter. The audio is nice. What was the other radio you had that I commented your audio? The Falcon 5. This one looks like it has a little less output, but it's got a little bit more forward motion, and the audio is nice and clean, very loud. Looking at that radio, doing a little research, it shows that it's an import, a Japanese import. I wonder if it was one of the, it almost looks like a Courier or something. I just wonder who made that for them. It was one of the chassis that showed up elsewhere. Some of our listeners might know on that one, but a lot of the import radios did very well in the audio department. A lot of them were plate modulated, but that sounds really, really nice. In fact, I'll do, when your next transmission here, I'll do a frequency check, see how it's doing, but if you listen to the archives, you will be pleased on how that sounds. Over.
Okay. I'll just hold on just a little bit here. Anyway, for sure, it has an all-copper chassis. Well-made radio, real pretty radio. I don't believe it has anything to do with Couriers. It's made in Japan. Realistic, I don't know how they swung this and got this made in Japan too, but they did. And it's really a powerhouse when it transmits real strong on the thing. And very nice looking radio too. Well vented, which I like I said before. I am running a power mic on the thing. It's an Aesthetic D104 M6B. It's amplified, of course. And I have it set where I'm hitting right at 100% modulation. That's what I'm trying for. So I hope it sounds that good down there. Back to you, Dennis.
It sounds great. I would agree that you are every bit at 99, or was it Ivory Soap? 99 and 44/100% modulation. Just really loud, good piercing audio. Another, like I said, daily driver. When we start getting Skipland in, that would be a radio you'd want to have on, because I think they would hear you with no problem. We are talking with Paul up in North Fork. He's on the Realistic TRC X23. I'm guessing that was probably their final venture into tube radios, and then they started coming out with TRC 23 and the 30A and the Navajo. That was the Navajo was the one that I had. But it also had a TRC number, and they came out with a lot of little mobiles like the Mini 23 and the Mini 6. Doing a good job, Radio 9. Give us a transmission, one more before you go, and thanks for bringing it by.
Yeah, I don't know if I told you, but it's a 10-tuber, so it's a pretty good sized radio as far as, well, the size of it too, physically, so it'll accept 10 tubes without any problem. That's a real pretty radio. They made it real handsome, like a woman would like. Okay, thanks again, Dennis.
Yeah, we started a discussion a couple of weeks ago, and one of the Facebook pages, Crazy Bob's page, put out a post saying, when did that happen? When did people start noticing that the radios started going modern or furniture? Where they call it the furniture look, which I think is good. Where they started getting the wood sides or the blacked out fronts that look more like stereo gear, where you could sneak it into the living room rather than keeping it out in the garage. And someone mentioned that if you look at the amateur radios back in 1967, 68, 69, the late 60s, early 70s amateur radios, they were all the same classic style. And the CB radios started modernizing, making themselves look like stereo gear, putting wood sides. And I started thinking and looking around, it's like the amateur really didn't do that all that much. There were these big heavy metal boxes. They just added more dials and knobs. But then again, by the mid-1970s, there were, 3 or 4 million people hanging out on 11 meters, and there was probably 600 or 700,000 on amateur radios. So there might have been something to their method to their madness, as they say, in getting the radios to come inside. Let me say hello to the mighty KUH, Brian, who is tuning us in, watching over on the video. And I will take the liberty, Brian, of I'd like to pop up your Radio Shack there. Brian is like many of us, is a ham radio operator, of course, but he also runs some of the big iron tube radios. And focusing in there, if you look in the center, that is his Drake series. And I don't know, I'm not good at that. One of those might be an amplifier. He's also got some modern stuff, but he knows how to run a good tube radio and a good tube amp and get some good, I think, AM modulation. Anyway, Brian, thanks for tuning in. We always enjoy your posts. And like I said, someday when I get all the garbage over here set back up, might talk to you guys out there on probably this time of night. I would have to have a pretty decent antenna to get mine land on 75 meters. I'd be probably better off trying on 40 meters, and of course during the day I don't think we'd have any problem hanging out on 20 or 15 or 10 if the band was open. The Old Tube Radio Network, real radio's glowing in the dark. We are here in Central California. 27085 is our RF frequency. Everywhere else at oldtuberadio.net. The Jingle Singers. What have you got for us?
You're listening in the latest style.
27.085 megahertz. Channel 11, Old Tube Radio.
In wonderful
Fresno, California.
And we were looking for Radio 10. And hello, Denny. Hello, Denny, from another Denny here in Fresno. No conditions on the Chris 23. Well, we'll hang out. We might have a Chris 23 checking in tonight. I'll have to see. It is one of our radios that checks in often. I think I also have a Mini 6. No, I don't know if I have a Mini 6 or Mini 23. One of them you actually had to press the button in. I think it was a Mini 23, where you got 1 through 12 and you press the button, and then you got the other sets of channels. But man, that Mini 6, that was cool for the day. Had a friend that had one. We mounted it on our bicycle. He mounted it on a bicycle, and we made a little fishing pole whip antenna and ran it off of a lantern. I think it was either 2 6-volt lantern batteries or a 12-volt lantern batteries on the bicycle. But the good old Mini 6 had that little tiny microphone, and I think they were $69. It might have been $99, but they were fun radios back in the day when you thought, in fact, they were cheaper than a walkie-talkie. I remember the Mini 6. They didn't have 23 channels, but it was like, why not buy a Mini 6? Instead of a walkie-talkie, you get 5 watts. All right, we're looking for Radio 10. I probably need to check my email. Copy, KP6GFD.
Hello, is this thing working?
This is this thing working frequency.
Okay, it wasn't working there for a minute. 37, do you like to check in a radio?
All right, those watching the video can see me fumbling for my foot switch. I need my hands to do all the writing and things, so I have it's actually a Heil. What are their foot switch? And sometimes it sort of slides away on my mid-century modern tile floors, or vinyl composition tile floors, and I have to go chasing it. So, yes, if you'd like to be Radio 10, we can do that.
Put some Velcro on it and a little sticker down there on the bottom. That'll work. It might. Anyway, I want to check in on my general radio telephone, the Super MC11A, 24-channel version of this in here. Running this here with a handheld stock microphone. Over.
Sounding good on the stock microphonium. We earlier had the general radio telephone MC5 with a not stock microphone, but as we were mentioning, the addition of the ECLL 800 tube in that radio helped the drive the audio a lot. And so typically, as you are certainly proving, you could use the standard issue non-amplified microphonium and do quite well with the audio, which indeed you are doing. Give us another transmission on Radio 10.
All right, well, it's an 11, but we'll go for a 10, okay. But anyway, this one is mine, and it does seem to be working.
It's working very well. When you, I don't see that there's a modulation light on that radio, so when you transmit, do you get a little bit of what we call the wiggle meter on the S meter as it goes to RF?
Oh, yeah, it definitely wiggles.
All right, I'm sure if you were looking at an external PEP watt meter, you would see the same thing. Probably an RMS meter as well would be dancing pretty good. This one fits our category tonight, and I'm assuming yours will be the same as the photo we're showing, since it is St. Patrick's Day. Any radio that has a wee bit of green is a good thing, and I think your Channel 11 selector is showing up green.
Yes, the background is green, and the letters are black, and yes, it's green. There is no modulation light, but it does have a wiggle meter, you know. And then I look up here on the other meters, I got SWR, modulation and wattage thing, and you know, actually 2 of them wiggle quite well. The other one just stays flat, so that's where I want it to stay anyway.
All right. Well, nothing flat about your sound tonight on Radio 10. General Radio Telephone, Super MC11A, sounding good. 9 tubes, 2 transistors. It says 24 channels, so somewhere in there you've either got the 22A or General Radio Telephone was sort of notorious about sticking in one of the CAP, Civil Air Patrol frequencies somewhere, which could be. That is more information if you've got a Sam's PhotoFax Book 22 will be on 45, but they do sound good. Give us another transmission. Thanks for bringing it by, and let's see. Looks like we have some fans of Chris radios tonight, so you might be able to help us out on that.
Well, yes, I can. I can help you on that. When you said that, I just reached over and I just turned it on. So give me a few minutes, and I will give the Chris 23 a holler for you.
All right, good deal. Thanks for Radio 10 and the Old Tube Radio Network listening.
Break OTR.
The break OTR. Go ahead, please.
Well, thank you, Dennis. In the spirit of the occasion, I'd like to check in this big green machine, the Tram TR27E.
The luck of the Irish and the luck of radios made in the USA, back in most of them anyway, back in the day. We've got a great shot of the green radio, not the actual one on which you're transmitting, but everybody can see the amount of green that is happening over there on St. Patrick's Day this evening. From the Tram TR27E, back to you.
Well, I don't know if you can hear it or not, but when I unkey, I get a nice chirp.
What I don't hear the chirp. What I'm hearing is it's and relay to me the microphonium you are using. So it's either the control handle or whatever on the microphone, or we're actually hearing, if it's a relay, I don't know, that might be electronic switching, but if it's relay switching, we're hearing some kind of snap on either side, but I'm not hearing the chirp. Over.
Well, okay, I guess it doesn't bother me too much, and if you can't hear it, it's definitely not bothering you.
No, sounding good. It sounds big. It sounds bad, that other bad. Not the bad, the 21st century bad. And it's probably right now sounding like a train, but it's doing a good job. Over.
Like bad to the bone.
Well, real good. It's one of my favorites. I'm using a non-amplified D104.
Doesn't seem like that radio needs much amplification for the audio. Ed, who checked in earlier on his, was running the classic EV microphone, which is an amplified, and the D104 also works well with the tube radio, sounding good. Nice, super clear audio sounds. I've heard you on FM before, and this has that good fidelity of FM, but nice, punchy for AM. Radio 11, the Tram TR27E, keeping in our green theme here on St. Patrick's Day. We'll go over to you for another transmission. Thanks for bringing it by.
Well, real good. I heard somebody was looking for some Chris radios. If I can, if mine isn't too buried too deep, I'll warm it up if I can find it. Okay, thanks, Dennis. Back to OTR.
All right, doing a good job on the Old Tube Radio Network. Still a lot of listeners out at oldtuberadio.net. Hello to Dallas, Georgia, of course, and St. Charles is still in there, Angola, New York's. And there are a lot of stations from Fresno, Spring Hill, Florida. Good to hear see the Florida crew in there. Pottstown, Pennsylvania, Hamilton, Ohio, Utah, way up in the balcony tonight. Getting a nosebleed up there, Ray. Also Westchester, Ohio. Somebody was showing up in the wrong QTH, but you are definitely there, and maybe others also watching us and waving a hand on the YouTube video. OTR listening.
37.
Hello, 37 over.
And under. And here we are. We are going to check in my Chris 23 plus CB transceiver. 23 transceiver that goes in the dark, and we are running this in here with the original handheld stock microphone. Over.
Nothing wrong with that. A lot of radios tonight not needing the amplification. Tube radios usually did a pretty good job, had a nice audio amplifier section. A lot of the guys now are doing hi-fi. They're doing hi-fi audio with the newer sets, direct injecting. I think some guys you could run like right into the balance modulator if you wanted to. You can do it like I'm doing, just pull it through the front of the radio and get what you get. But it's fun. A radio like that, and all these radios have, especially in the AM mode, you get the personality of the operator's voice. That's one thing about AM that AM has over sideband with the extra bandwidth. You get a little bit more personality on the voice coming through. And as you change your microphoniums, you can kind of tailor that personality. Radio 12 sounding good. Back to you.
Well, you were saying there was somebody out there kind of fond of the Chris's, so, I had to fire it up there for him. Over.
All right, listening in, I think it was Denny out there mentioned that his Chris 23 wasn't quite able to make the conditions here into Central California tonight, so we were going to sort of reverse that and throw some of that Chris 23 energy his way, and hopefully we'll get some conditions. Radio number 12, sounding good, thanks, on the Chris 23 Plus. AM plate modulated radio, by the way, 11 tubes. There is an operator's manual available at oldtuberadio.com for the Chris 23 Plus, if anybody needs that, and able to go 115-volt AC and 12-volt DC, the infamous... I think that's an infamous Panasonic chassis. Thanks for bringing it by.
You bet, Dennis. Thank you.
Break OTR.
And the break OTR. Hello, Phil.
Well, hello, Dennis. I just got this. It really isn't warmed up, but this is my Chris 23 Plus.
Oh, okay. Now here I'm writing a Chris 23 Plus in for Radio 12 and Lucky Radio 13 at 9:50. Looks like I still have the photo up. Is that the only one I've got? That's the only picture I've got, so I'll just keep it right there. And I'll chat a bit. It sounds like it's warmed up. I don't hear any anomalies in the audio, so take another transmission.
Well, real good. I see the wiggly meters are wiggling. I bought this radio new old stock, and the first time it was short of being tested, factory or whatever, was on OTR. It made its broadcast. It's not broadcast. It's transmit premiere on OTR a few years back over.
And it's back again. This isn't reruns. We're just bringing it back, sort of like Chris 23 Plus revisited. Nice smooth audio. As you heard, Chris was running a stock microphone with his, and I am, as many of our listeners are probably, curious to know what you're doing on the microphonium there for that.
This also is the OEM stock handheld microphonium.
Sounding good, and as we've said before, sometimes it's easy to drive too much audio in, and it's not pleasant to listen to for a long time. But this is nice and smooth. We could have a conversation all night. I'm seeing a modulation light. So how much winking and blinking do you get out of that mod light with the stock mic?
Well, it winks and blinks pretty good. It also likes to hear your voice. It winks and blinks as you modulate through the speaker. Let's see. I'm looking at my. I got about 80% on my meter. Looking at about maybe not quite 4 watts.
Breaker here.
And breaker acknowledged. And I believe Chris has mentioned the same thing on his. He says I can make his modulation light go with a strategically placed hello radio through the microphone here. So good stuff. Sounding good. Let's see. That's not green. Is that a green? What is the color? No, that's got blue on it. But that's okay. We'll take any color tonight. Sounding good, and thanks for the extra effort. Our SWLs appreciated.
No problem, Dennis.
And speaking of appreciation, it is SWL 20 Appreciation Day. Hello, Harvey.
Hey, thank you. I don't know how well you can hear this one, but this one I've had for a couple of years, and I finally got it working. I did a channel 10 crystal to receive 11. I don't have an 11 crystal. This is from, let's see, Acton Laboratories Inc., Acton, Massachusetts. The type PVC 271-3, Citizen Bend Plain Fever.
All right, I hear you. The copy is not, unfortunately, the copy is not 100% as you're down in the noise a bit. But give me the model number. I thought you said Actron, and then you gave the model, and you gave the model number. So try it on me again, and I will be listening. Over.
Okay. You
All right, I see Harvey's probably trying some range boosting there. Yes, do what is safe, and will work. But it did key up and sound okay that time. Over.
Okay. The Acton, ACTON type PVC-271-3. 6-channel crystal transmit, 6-channel crystal retains only radio. No meter. It's got a super noise limiter, the best noise limiter of any of my radios. And it's got a weird carbon mic from Bell Laboratories on it. But it's working, I guess.
It's working. It sounds like it could be a carbon microphone. I think I'm experiencing or listening to a little bit of AC note coming in. It's hard to tell if that could be a microphone-induced thing or power supply hum. I've got the radio as an Acton, ACTON type TCV, like Tango Charlie Victor 271-3. It reminds me of when I used to have to, what was it, the RCA? The RCA used to have those really bifurcated model numbers as well, but I want to make sure I get it correctly here, so give me an update if I've mistyped anything.
I thought I heard somebody out there, too. Yeah, that is correct.
All right, and I say that again, Larry. Larry's watching on the SDR radio.
I said his frequency shift looks very interesting.
And he says your frequency shift looks very interesting on the SDR radio. I think I dialed you in. You're not that far off center frequency, but it may be doing a little bit of thing when you modulate. I was trying to see if I could bring up some type of a video or a picture for that. I'm not having much luck. So is that something produced in the U.S.?
Roger. Produced in Acton, ACTON, Massachusetts. The Acton Laboratories Inc. is a subsidiary of Technology Instruments Corporation. Right on the front of the radio.
All right, I think Retrocom lists some information about that, but boy, it is very, very stealthy for finding some pictures. So even if it's not the most photo-worthy radio, it might be something we can add to the item there. Well, I'm glad the receiver, you said it's got a good noise blanker. I'm always interested when somebody says, this radio has the best one of these, or it's the best one of those, but it's in some radio that isn't real popular, and you think, well, what did that company do right, and why can't everybody else do that? Or maybe it's a combination of things, the type of receiver they're using. Where did you acquire this new item of interest?
Well, I acquired it a number of years ago, and I noticed that the receive frequency for channel 11, the crystal, would be 22.630 megahertz, which I'm having trouble finding. But the hand channel 10 crystal that came with it, 22.620, and I noticed that the radio, that the crystals were slightly tunable, so I went in there and redid the tuning, and I'm able to get channel 10 to receive 11, so I can hear you and a couple of other people.
Okay, the audio is starting to deteriorate a little bit, and you're saying, well, what does he mean by that? It's sounding a little bit more almost FM-y as you keep transmitting. So I'm not sure if something is changing or not. Still is a pretty good signal. And again, I'll have to do some research to see what I can find out about that. Definitely sounds like there may not be a lot of those running around.
Probably not. Anyway, I haven't checked the tube. I haven't checked the cap. So that's something to do in the next couple of weeks. Okay, I'm going to let you go. I got 2 more to do.
All right, Radio 14, the Acton TCV 271-3. And it could actually be the carbon microphones, I think. Sometimes, where the crystals, the carbon in there gets packed, and it just needs a little bit of coaxing to sound good. I'm seeing Acton Labs, TCV271 CB transceiver schematics and or service manual, but we'll have to find out more. All right, we'll let you go on to the next one. Thanks for bringing that one by. I always like, Harvey is very good at teasing us with these radios that he has, And then in subsequent weeks, they will come back and sound a little bit better and be a little bit more on frequency as he peaks and tweaks and does his magic. So thanks, Harvey, for getting our appetite whetted with the Acton, and we are looking for Radio 15.
37.
And 37, go ahead, over.
Thank you, Dennis. SWL 37 here. We're going to check in right now our Citizens Little Phone by Helicrafters model CB3A. This is a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8-channel transceiver. We are on channel E at this moment here. Sorry, I turned my head a little bit. I probably dropped an audio. But that's where we are right there, and we are running this here with the original handheld Carbon microphone. Over.
Carbon microphone sounding good. We just experienced the radio before you with that, and people might say, what Carbon microphone? But if you realize back in this time period, the 60s, late 50s and 60s, your telephone, good old Ma Bell, was using carbon elemented microphones to talk around the world on your telephone. So they were well suited for the type of audio that, speech that we do here on CB radio. So a lot of the early microphones just went ahead and used the carbon element. Somebody used to tell me that you could actually, on some of these, screw that little mouthpiece off your old telephone and take the carbon microphone out and use it as an insert on some of these microphones. So you just never know. Let's hear the Helicrafters again. You know I love Helicrafters.
Franco, TR. Absolutely. All right, Dennis, I'm going to get out of here, and this is my Helicrafters model CB3A with my handheld, like I said. We're going to get out, let the other record go, and I will be back with one more.
All right, sounding good as we get ready to wind down the net here, but want to get in all the radios that would like to check in. Thanks for the Helicrafters CB3A from Helicrafters, their flagship of 1963, selling for about $160. 7 tubes, all that in 7 tubes, and there is a schematic for the Helicrafters CB3A over at oldtuberadio.com. A breaking station. Hello, Harvey. Go ahead, please.
Okay. I'll see if this one sounds any better.
It sounds pretty good. I might see if the SDR guys can give you some comments on that as well. Nice audio. Take another transmission.
This one I haven't had on in a long time. This is a General Radio Telephone Super MC100 prototype. I'm using a D104 on it tonight because it just happened to be here and it was wired right, so got it going. Anyway, I haven't had it on in a long time, but here it is.
And here it is. For those of you who are listening, especially if you're at oldtuberadio.net or you're not local to the net here, I'm glad you are still on, because this is truly a one-of-the-kind radio. And the picture I'm showing it is really not made up. This is the photo of, I believe we're showing the photo of your radio, Harvey, mainly because we're calling it a prototype. It never quite got FCC type accepted, or we don't think anyway that it got sold anywhere. It's from General Radio Telephone, and you call it an MC100. So I'm assuming somewhere on there you see the number MC100.
There's no number on it. It says MC100, but in a roundabout way, I was sent a photocopy of sales article on this radio and several others, showing a picture of this and calling it the Super MC100. It's definitely a General, but it was something that they were fooling around with in the factory, I guess. It doesn't have the factory meters. It's got different meters from a Japanese company, but inside some of the tubes say General Radio Telephone, and
The radio came with a stock about 50 or so watt dummy load, switchable in-out dummy load you use for tuning up the radio. And on the dummy load, it says General Radio Telephone, Burbank, California.
So the real deal. Let's talk about the case, because we had brought something up about the furniture look. And some of the guys on the Facebook sites were talking about that. And this radio, which isn't typical at all for General Radio Telephone, because theirs all had the rack handles and looked very industrial. This radio definitely has that furniture look. So that case is the way the radio comes. That's not something that you put in, right?
What was the last question?
Talking about the wood case, that is something that came with the radio. That's nothing that you built or made yourself.
No, it came with the radio, the wood case. It's a particle board case with kind of a veneer cover on it, wood grain. No rack handles, although I guess, I can't put them on. But it's got the correct speaker cut-in grill for the Super Series, correct knob, and for St. Patrick's Day, it's got, of course, the green dial. And definitely inside it says General Radio Telephone, pretty much all over. It receives sideband, but does not transmit sideband. It receives double sideband. The receive section leaves a lot to be desired. I have to do a whole lot of work on it to get it to sound right. Everybody sounds way too bassy, so I have to do something to fix that. So it's hard to understand a lot of people. But I was having trouble even getting the receive channels on frequency. So I had it at the shop for about 6 to 8 months, and I finally got all the channels except for 2 or 3 to receive properly. So anyway, my 11 worked, and it's close on frequency on transmit. Anyway, I got one more to go, but the General Radio Telephone Super MC100 non-type accepted.
Comment.
All right, non-type accepted. There's a comment. I'm showing, we're putting up the spectral display of that radio. Maybe the comment can help us out.
Yeah, there's another picture, another image. That's the first radio he's talking on. The second image is of the MC100.
Okay, I'll have to find out where I put it. Looks like it might be a little bit wide.
And Harvey's got to look at that image. He's going to laugh.
Okay, and what was that, Harvey?
I thought you asked me something. I couldn't quite copy it.
All right, well, Larry has an SDR receiver going, and he's put up we'll call it a photo, if you will, of your image on a spectrum display. So anyway, I was showing that.
Okay. All righty. Anyway, I got one more to do. One that I can hear a lot better on.
37.
All right, very good. Thanks for bringing that by. The prototype General Radio Telephone MC100. I don't think you'll find much information about it, and that's the photo we had there. Is the way it looks, and the way it sounds, and what it does. Thanks for standing by, Chris. We've got you as Radio 17. Go ahead.
Okay. SWL 37 here. We are going to check in my pretty blue radio. We are checking in the G PowerMate, the Jim Marine Products, 23-channel tube that glows in the dark, and we are running this in here with the amplified D104 Lollipop microphone. Over.
Well, we just had to have a few radios with the amplified microphones. We're doing so well with the stock audio tonight, but I have a feeling that that's in a chassis, especially with if it's got a range boost. It looks like it doesn't have a range boost, but I bet it would still sound good without the amplification. Give us another transmission.
Well, it don't have no range boost, but I've got a green panel shield over my channel selector, except for the very center shows what channel, it only shows up white. But on 12 and 10 right there, it shows up green. So there's a like a little plexiglass that makes a green color for each side. So we got some more green in there.
Got some green. We can see that on the display. It's actually on when you are receiving, like you are now. It appears there's also, it could be blue, but it looks like a green pilot light to add to the St. Patrick's Day mystique.
Yes, it's when you're keyed up, it turns, well, when I'm listening, it's green, and when I transmit, it turns to red.
Well, that's a good thing. Red and green, sounding good. Radio 17, Gem Marine Products, G-PowerMate, very nice audio, good signal. Give us a transmission, and thanks for bringing it by to the Old Tube Radio Network.
Yeah, betcha, Dennis. Thanks for being there. Anyway, we're back out, and we'll be. Well, I got to turn it on still, but we'll see what we can do.
7.
All right, we'll definitely see what you can do. Thanks, Chris. Also waving a hand to TJ, who has stopped in, waving a hand to all the Tube Radio operators tonight out there on the video. Thanks, TJ. Always good to have you aboard, and we have SWL7. Hello, Mr. Ed.
And hello, Dennis, and all the SWLs. The Browning Golden Eagle Mark III SSB. Now, I also have the banana mic on this one at this particular time. Now, unlike the other guy earlier, the little base that I have that the microphone sits in, it pops in and out real easy, does not get stuck, and the base says it's a model 417 stand from Electro Voice Incorporated, Buchanan, Michigan, made in the USA.
Made in the USA. Well, that's a good thing, because you wouldn't want to drop it on the floor. You still want to have the ability to orchestrate the ping, and it's putting out some pretty decent audio on the Mark III. So thanks for that. I was trying to remember if those microphones were Shure or Electro Voice. So I'm assuming if they got Electro Voice bass, they're an Electro Voice microphonium.
There you go, and just a little bit more of the pinging effect with the banana-type microphone. Hopefully that did not damage your ears.
I don't think there's any damage, or it's a type of thing where in a couple of minutes I'll be able to hear, 80% of what I was hearing previously. You are Radio 18 at about 10:13 is I think the time I'm going to put that from the Browning Golden Eagle Mark III SSB, sounding good.
And there we go with one more of the long pings. I think I'll go ahead and put the other gold-plated microphone back on, but figure what the heck will go stock today.
Comment.
And the comment, go ahead, over.
All right, I smell a challenge here. I want to see Ed versus Harvey with the ping contest.
37.
Say that again, Mike. You're going to do what?
I want to see Ed versus Harvey with a ping contest.
All right. I hear the challenge has been opened. Ed has quite an arsenal there between the almost not ping and the OMG ping. So we'll see. And he demonstrated most all of them. And so the challenge has been taken. And we'll get to that in a moment. But first, let's go to, I believe, 37?
Yes, it is. It is I.
All right, Chris, you have, on the extended version, and that's okay, on the Old Tube Radio Network, we'd like to check in radio, so whatever it takes. You are radio number 19. Tell us what you got.
Well, you can probably figure it out first. The last one of the collection of mine. We're going to check in the Courier Royale, the 23-channel tuber that goes in the dark with blinking modulation lights and another light over there blinking, and got an orange, well, two red ones and an amber, but Here's the one with all the knobs in the front. We got 6 knobs for tuning and all that stuff. And then, of course, the big knobs makes number 7 for the channel selector. And, of course, the knob hidden in the back for the modulation and, so forth and so forth. This is a knobby radio. But also, we're running this here with the amplified D104 Lollipop. What is this, dude? This is a TUG-8 stand by a static. So it's still working. I've had this thing here since a long time. 20.
And you will hang out in the green room, Harvey. You will be next. I was perusing your radio there, the Courier, for some green, and I think unless you wear some type of tinted glasses, we're not going to make it. The other color is more of a goldish, greenish tint, but maybe close enough for St. Patrick's Day. And yes, indeed, that was Courier's top of the line radio. So they managed to put just about everything that was necessary for an operator to say, "Wow, this has got a lot of stuff."
All right, well, now, if you look over at the S meter, it shows there in letters there, it says relative power. All right, I believe that is green. It looks green, or a bluish green anyway. It looks green to me. But, I'm not always perfect on my colors, but I try to be.
All right, I see that. If somebody wants to do a 400% expand, I think they will see that. It looks like it might even, is it RF power? It looks like it almost says on this shot, it says the name, like Courier in the meter. But anyway, I think you have pegged the connection to St. Patrick's Day green tonight. That is an 11-tube radio. What's in there? 6BQ5, of course. A couple of them. Helping out with the audio. Collins 6 kilohertz mechanical filter, which is a good thing. Anybody have the R390 receivers, you'll find a lot of those little Collins mechanical filters in that, but there is one in this radio. More information on Sam's PhotoFax CB14. And believe it or not, Chris, if you want and you've got the right cable for that, you can run that in the car.
Yeah, it makes it kind of nice. But yeah, on this one here, though, you're saying you thought it said Royale in it. No, on this one here, it just says relative power. Yeah, relative power. That's what it says there. And of course, it's all green. And, I just happened to notice in here, I'm looking up at the G Power Mate, the hit me meter, what is the RF meter on there? The bottom scale, or 125 power out, it is also in green. I didn't notice that until I just started looking. Maybe I should open my eyes up more often, huh?
Well, the famous frog who has the song, "It's Not Easy Being Green," and sometimes it's like that. Thanks, Chris. Doing good. You are Radio 19 with the Courier, and thanks for working your radio room tonight. We appreciate it.
You betcha, Dennis. All right, well, I'm out and going back to the other one, and I'll listen.
All right, and we are the Old Tube Radio Network. Real radios glowing in the dark here every Saturday, at least when we can get to the radio room, and we've been doing pretty good in the last 33 or 34 years of staying on the air and giving our tube radio operators and shortwave listeners a forum to actually get on the air, a reason, I guess, to get on the air and kind of have some fun like a lot of us did back when these radios were brand new. And if you weren't around or you're new to the hobby, this is sort of what the sound was like. There weren't many anyway. There were solid-state radios. So tubes was the thing. Mr. Harvey, out there on the west side, you have Radio 20, over.
Now, 20 is 20. Okay, hopefully you can hear this one a little bit also. The Browning Golden Beagle, R68T68 by Browning Laboratories with the...
With the something.
Did I just cut out to nothing?
The carrier went away, sort of in mid-sentence, but you are back now, over.
Yeah, I noticed it did. I'm wiggling the mic around here. Now, I don't know what happened. Could be my switch box. I've been switching things around a little bit. Okay. Browning Golden Beagle. And then proxy myself and 2.9 in for next week. It should be working.
All right, now don't go away just yet, Radio 20, and 100% on the key up last time, so I think you're looking good. A lot of our SWLs are out there, and they're wanting to hear what's in the ping box over there.
You want to hear a what?
We're trying to see how your key up compares to that other Browning we just heard.
Well, he has a longer ping, which this one won't do right now. And that other radio of mine that had that, well, it's not here right now, so can't do much with it. But this is the basic average ping.
All right. Well, dare I even say that we're not? How do I say this? That length of the ping doesn't matter here during the contest. We're trying to see how you can orchestrate.
Yeah, you can play with it.
Yes, you can. Okay, without getting in any more trouble, I think that proves our point. And anybody that has been around and listened to the Brownings or has one knows that part of that radio is the key up. And as an operator, you have the opportunity, one, to shut it completely off, and you can do that with controls on the radio. To minimize it, you can do that by going inside and changing some capacitors. By making it extremely extended, by going in and changing the capacitors. And then you can change the microphone element to make the sound a little bit different. You can put an external speaker on to make the sound a little bit different, or you can do what Harvey and a lot of the people do, and you can orchestrate with your microphonium, whether you leave it in the stand, as Jerry mentioned that he does with his Mark III, and let it be, well, very similar each time you key up as a signature that way, or you can move it around in proximity to the microphone, to the speaker, and as I say, orchestrate it that way, and maybe like a snowflake. It'll be different each time you key up the radio. So that is one of the fun things about the Browning. You get to decide how you want to do it. It's like customizing your car, right? You can put in big tires, you can put in different rims, you can paint a stripe on it. So that's where these radios are fun. All right, enough of me talking. The jingle singers are saying that we're over time, but that's okay. That's, like I said, that's what they don't get paid for. Let's have them tell us about the magic, and then we'll see if there's anybody else out there that would like to check in a radio.
What are the magic numbers?
27.085 megahertz, channel 11.
Are the magic letters?
OTR.
Right here in
Fresno, California.
Radio Magic.
Old Tube Radio.
For you.
And we're counting and amounting.
Well, you want to add a robin to that list?
You know, robins are big tonight because there are a lot of them that have green somewhere.
I knew you were going to bring that up, and you're going to have to help me out on this one. I don't know if the sucker is green or not. Maybe the top is? No?
Well, tell me your model number. I think we can probably find green on a few of the 123s, whether it's the straight or the B.
Oh, there you go. I forgot. Okay, so this is the Robin T123B in Bravo. No magic eye. It's got a couple other lamps, some of which are sort of winking and blinking when I talk, as in the modulation lamp. Actually, it's not really working that well. Hello? Yeah, this is kind of uninspiring, this modulation lamp. There is a pretty cool, I think it's blue, transmit lamp that kind of lights up just to the left of the channel selector. But it's a Bravo B model. I don't know if that case is green or not.
The case, the photo we're showing, unless yours has been repainted, is very green. You should have a greenish stripe across the front, and then the color, whatever it may be that you're actually seeing on the knob inserts, or lack of color maybe, is actually green as well. It matches the same color that is on the stripe below the knob. So you are in full St. Paddy's Day mode when you key up on that one.
Oh, good. Yeah, that's nice. I was kind of distraught. I thought the regular 123 was more green than this particular one. Well, I'm glad this one kind of goes out the St. Patrick's Day. So a few minutes ago, I got down on my hands and knees. I was kind of looking at the sky, and that stripe on the bottom of the face of the radio that you're talking about is perfectly green, as in no scratches, no fingernail scratches, or nothing. As I think most of this radio is, I think I've said this before, it's probably got to be the most immaculate radio in my collection. But it's funny, it doesn't have an amplified mic, and like I said, the modulation lamp certainly isn't doing very much right now. I hope it might work.
Well, let me tell you that your modulation light is, in the words of Shel Silverstein, telling you true, because you're about 50% modulated. So if it has a range expand, it might need more expanding. I hear you fine because you're above my noise level, but I would say you're about 50% modulated. So the little light is telling you accurately.
Oops. Okay. Well, so that poses an interesting question. If I'm only 50% modulated, I have every single tube in this thing replaced. When I got it, what do you do to bring the modulation up?
There's probably two ways. If the range expand is working, and I'm not sure if what they did is, they fool you by having, when it's off, it's actually attenuating, and when it's on, it's actually just giving you the full, whatever the audio amplifier is doing, rather than having another circuit that amplifies. So there may be an adjustment on that. If it's on or off, it would be the first thing to check. The other thing is there is probably an internal adjustment just for the amount of audio coming through your microphone circuit, and it could have been adjusted with somebody that had an amplified microphone, and they talked into it and did the Orange Furniture Sizzling Sausage boom, 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 with the microphone turned way up, and so they adjusted the radio way down to make it work. So there could be a few items like that. But there is modulation. The modulation sounds good. The carrier is okay. So that would be the two things. I'm going to say it's just an adjustment rather than a tube item.
Oh, good. All right. Well, maybe I'll grab some Windex and a random screwdriver and start seeing what kind of mischief I can get myself into.
All right. Before you go, and if you dare, and sometimes it's not a good idea to play with the range expand switches on the older radios because they don't work, or they work even less better when they get moved around. But is your range expand in the in, out, on, off mode? Where is it set?
Oh, that's a good question. I'm glad you asked. A long time ago, I think when I originally started messing around with it, we're talking maybe, by now a couple years ago. I don't think this range expand knob or switch had very much influence at all as far as what the radio was doing. Maybe 20, 30, 40 minutes ago, I was kind of playing with it, just trying to see if I could break anything loose. It's on right now, Hello. So I'm kind of paying attention to what the modulation lamp is doing right now. I'm going to turn it off. I'm going to assume that you're not even going to hear me. But we're going to go 1, 2, 3, and it is now turned off. And my modulation lamp is happening. I'm very curious as to what the difference is now that it's turned back on.
And as you noticed probably, your modulation light probably stopped blinking altogether. And so the switch is working. It is attenuating or adding. However, when you start with 50% when it's on and you turn it off, you probably go down to about 20%. So, okay, that part is functioning. So it could just be an adjustment where it needs a little bit more audio smoke on your gain adjustment. Otherwise, if everything is perfect, then it might require an amplified microphone. But typically, those radios don't. If you're running with the range boost off, they might. But typically, with the range boost on, you should have sufficient 80% modulation with the standard microphone. So we will see. There's audio. It's good. Don't hear any humming. So that part of the game is not a problem. You are Radio 21, the Robin T123B, which is the photo that I'm showing, but I'm not going to be showing it too much longer. There we go. Get to see me. And thanks for bringing it by. We'll go back to you for another transmission, and I want to see if we've got any other stations hanging out there. But I appreciate you dashing into the radio room and adding another green radio into our OTR pot of gold tonight.
I got the OTR pot of gold. Well, I'm at a loss for words. I'm trying to make a comment. I've been feeling the radio all night long. It hasn't been that warm on receive. I think, well, you're not going to be putting your hand on the top of this radio now, at least for very long. So I'm curious now if it's super hot, just because I'm chatting on it so much. But who knows? If that's the scientific experimentation for later on. But anyways, as always, everyone sounds great. Thanks for letting me check it in. It's a fun toy to operate on, and on that, I'll send it back to you. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Are there any other stations would like to check in before we sign out tonight?
OTR. Channel 11.
Right here in
Fresno, California.
Stay with us.
Old Tube Radio.
And be modern.
Made it past 10:30, overtime.
Yeah, well, the list actually goes 2 pages here, so it's like, well, there's still some empty spots to fill up, and we get a lot of listeners in time zones that put them into Sunday, and a lot of them are still out there hanging in with us. So we really appreciate that, but I try not to make anybody stay up too late, and then again, I always come back to the archives, or we keep the videos up for a while. So it's all fun and it's all good, and it's the reason we're still doing this is because stations are not having a problem getting out there and keying up the radios, and we're all having a good time doing that. Okay, I see the fanfare. Mr. Announcer's ready. Here we go.
This is the Old Tube Radio Network. Ladies and gentlemen, stand by. It's time now for the current OTR totals.
Current and final totals did pretty good here on a St. Patrick's Day. No, I didn't even sign in. It is March 17th. It really helps to sign and date the list here, so when I go back 10 years later, like, well, there's a bunch of check-ins. I don't know when it was from, sometime in 2018. So this will actually have a date and month stamp. which is a good thing. 21 radios tonight. As we mentioned, SWLs, we had 9 on page 1, 15 on page 2, 14 on page 3, and 17 on page 4 for a total of 55, and we are in week 3 of this 8-week period. Are we hearing me? Sounds like something's dying here. Okay. Got a shadow. You know, being a former TV guy, get a shadow on your face is that's a bad thing. But no, this is radio, so who cares? Started off with the T-Craft Falcon. We had some very rare and interesting radios tonight, as we often do, but something we haven't heard in a while. The T-Craft Falcon is one of them, one of the early, late 50s, 59, 60 radio from Paul, who always seems to pull out something interesting from his CB Magic bag. Thank you, Paul, for getting us started off. Jerry with the Sonar Model G for Radio 2, sounding good. Green radios on a St. Patrick's Day is always a good thing. The Tram TR27E is a very good example. Our first one of the evening brought by from Mr. Ed for Radio 3. Radio 4, the Falcon 5, Roman numeral 5, from Paul, sounding good. The General Radio Telephone MC5. Did I say who was our manufacturer? I believe it was the Brownings at 3. There was a lot of tours. A lot of double radios tonight. General Radio Telephone was one of them. The first General Radio Telephone tonight. The MC5 from SWL25. Thanks, Jerry, for that. Green radios, the Robin T123 with the magic eye winking and blinking. Radio 7. That was Radio 6 from Mr. Ed. Radio 7 also from Ed, the E.F. Johnson Messenger 223. Radio number 8. Mr. Sidekick on his Browning Golden Eagle Mark III SSB. That was folded up by the Realistic TRCX23A. Very nice sounding, very good audio on that. I just don't hear many of those around. I just wonder how many of those were sold by Realistic. Radio Shack actually being quite popular back in the late 60s. Lafayette, Radio Shack, selling a lot of stereo gear and everything else. Boy, what would we be like if we had places like that now? I mean, Walmart just ain't cutting it, you know. Radio number 10 was the General Radio Telephone Super MC11A from Chris, followed by Radio 11, the Tram TR27E from Phil, getting his St. Patty's Day tribute in as well. Thanks to a suggestion from our digital SWL, Denny. He said he had no conditions on his Chris 23. Well, we didn't have conditions, but we had some Chris 23s. 2 Chris 23 pluses in a row. Chris on his for Radio 12 and Phil on his Radio 13. So thanks for the suggestion, Denny. Radio 14, the Acton Type TCV 271-3. Sorry, with no pictures for that. We had some good audio, which is up on the archives, by the way. Thanks, Harvey, for that. The Helicopter CB3A was Radio 15 from Chris. Harvey on his General Radio Telephone MC100 prototype. They don't make them like that anymore because they just don't make them. We're not even sure they made that one, but it exists and we've got a picture of it. So we have to admit that it happened. Radio 17, the Gem Marine Products G PowerMate. Thank you, Chris, for that. Mr. Ed on the Browning Eagle Mark III, the Golden Eagle Mark III SSB. Radio 19 was Chris on the Courier Royale. So many radios, I don't want to miss them all here. Radio 20, Harvey on his Browning Eagle R68 T68. It's good to see the original Eagle as Radio 20. So, Harvey, you can say you did at least at once this year. You got 20 and as 20, and it was the Browning Eagle, and then the Radio 21 finishing off our green thing that we're doing tonight on the Old Tube Radio Network, the Robin T123B. And if you want to hear that, it is up on the archives, up on the video too. 73, everybody. I am taking what's called an old buzzard transmission here in the AM world, but that's okay on the old tube radio kind of Saturday evening. Thanks to SearchLawrence.com and Frodex for keeping the Nixie tubes running. Thanks to all of you for hanging out late or early with us tonight at oldtuberadio.net. Of course, our shortwave listeners and tube radio operators that keep us running here for the last 34 years. 73, everybody. Have a great evening. And we have had some weather going on, so hopefully everybody's roofs are not leaking. And if you're in the snow area, it hasn't been too bad. We could use some more, and hopefully it comes in decent amounts. But we are keeping our fingers crossed. Catch you next time on the Old Tube Radio Network.
Good night. Good night. Another excellent job.
Happy St. Paddy's Day to everyone from SWL number 7.
And good night in the YouTube video. We'll catch you later.